So, current update. I'm laughing because everything is just adding up, and I think I have an understanding of why God has me here, one of the reasons. But I'm not going to put words in his mouth because he didn't tell me exactly, right? He didn't directly tell me why I'm here, but the more I'm moving with it, I'm kind of seeing one of the reasons. So I'm in Miami. I'm going to try to explain this in a short way, but it's probably going to be long, so bear with me. When I first got off the flight, I just logic brained it, obviously, because when you book a hotel, you have to have a checkout date, right? God never told me when I'm leaving. That's one thing. He told me when I was arriving, which was the 17th. He never gave me a checkout date. So because you have to have a checkout date, I put the 19th. I was just like, okay, that's 2 nights. I could just stay 3 days in Fort Lauderdale and then go back home, right, to Buffalo. And God told me, although you're putting for the hotel checkout to be the 19th, make sure that you're not assuming that you're leaving the 19th, right? I'm not telling you if you're leaving or not, but make sure that you're not assuming that, right? Don't assume an outcome. So I'm like, okay, God, so there's a possibility I'm not leaving. There's a possibility I am leaving the 19th. So I'm going to leave it in your hands. So a day into being at the hotel, God put it in my spirit that I'm not leaving the 19th, right? And because he said that, I'm like, okay, so maybe I can, go to Orlando, the 19th to the 20th, just experience somewhere else so I'm not stuck in Fort Lauderdale the entire time, right? And God put in my spirit and said, Orlando is out of the trip, right? It's not even in the plan anymore. Orlando was only in the plan to test your obedience, to test your faith, and see if you were going to actually book the flight to Orlando and not wherever you wanted to go, right? Because one thing about when God tells you a certain thing, you might try to do it your way. Like God told me I'm going on a trip for months, for almost 2 years now. He told me I was going on a trip, and who knows? I could have been like, okay, I'm gonna go to California, or I'm gonna go to Texas, or I'm gonna go to, New York City. God had to make sure that I went with Orlando, even if it wasn't my first choice of a vacation, right? So it started off as Orlando, but God never told me I was going to Orlando. He only told me to book a flight to Orlando, right? Which is why God has such a strong humor that he'll tell you to book a flight, but you're not going there, right? Because he had to make sure that I booked that flight just for me to be redirected to where he actually wanted me to go, which is crazy. So, yeah, or he told me Orlando's not even in the trip anymore. So when he told me that, I was like, okay, where else can I go? Maybe I can go to Miami, right? And I'm just laughing because the signs and everything that I'm seeing, it's very specific. And to let you guys know, I've been to Miami before. And because I'm so cautious with making the wrong decision, which I need to get out of that. I'm trying to get out of that because I just don't want to make any wrong moves. So I'm letting God, allow certain people in my life to help me, right? So I have somebody in my life that, I told just book me a hotel in Miami. Doesn't matter where. Like I don't care, right? First it was book me a hotel in Fort Lauderdale or Miami. Just book another one because the hotel I was staying in was for the 19th. And they were like, I feel like you should really go to Miami. You're already in Fort Lauderdale. And I'm like, okay, whatever, right? That must be God trying to, because I'm like, I don't care if I stay in Fort Lauderdale. And they're like, you should really go to Miami. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm like, go ahead, book a hotel. And, they're sending pictures. I'm like, just book one. It doesn't matter. I got this phone call. The hotel that they booked is the exact place of where I was the last time I went to Miami. And the last trip I took to Miami was very, very interesting and very a spiritual growth for me. Um, so it's just crazy that it's the exact place that I went the last time I went to Miami. And it's just crazy that it started off as I thought I was going to Orlando because God told me to book a flight to Orlando. And then I had the option of choosing between Fort Lauderdale or Miami because those were the only available flights from Chicago because I missed my first flight because of the weather. And I picked Fort Lauderdale. I'm like, okay, I'll just pick Fort Lauderdale because I was hesitant on picking Miami because I was so scared to come back here. And I can't really tell the reason, but eventually when it comes into fruition or if it does, I'm going to say when it does because I know it will. Just don't know if it's going to be this trip. But when it comes into fruition, then I can speak on why I was hesitant to come back here. But yeah, it's just crazy that it started off as Orlando, and then I had the option of choosing between Fort Lauderdale and Miami. I chose Fort Lauderdale, and then I ended up in Miami as of today. So it's like when God says something big, like there's a reasoning you're out here. There's a reasoning. So I'm not gonna speak too much on what it is exactly because, like I said, I'm not gonna put words in God's mouth if He didn't say it. Right now, I don't know the reasoning, and I'm gonna stick with that. I have a feeling of what I know, what God told me, but He never told me the timing of it. So I'm not gonna say that God said this time that no, He didn't say that. All He said was what He said, what I told you guys. So yeah, that's really pretty much the update. And also, because I don't know the date I'm leaving, again, I don't know if I'm leaving the 20th tomorrow. I don't know. So once I leave from this hotel tomorrow, I'm going to just go with my logical brain, right? Because I don't feel like God is saying to go back home or to stay. He's not really giving that to me right now. He's probably gonna give it last minute, which he's been doing. But yeah, every decision just been like last minute decisions, like last minute, last minute. Um, but yeah, if he tells me to stay the 20th, then I'm just gonna book another hotel somewhere. And if he tells me to leave, I'm gonna take the flight back to Buffalo. And if something happens to bring me back here or delay my flight to where I stay here, then that's what God calls me to do. And if it doesn't happen, and I just happen to go back to Buffalo, then there's still purpose in that, and we're gonna further see that. So that's the update. I know that was long, but I hope that explained as much as I could.